Guys, welcome to another video. You've got Mr. Everything English, and today we are talking about language devices. We are talking about simile, personification, pathetic fallacy, oxymoron, and juxtaposition. But this video is not going to be like other videos that I've made on this topic. A typical video about language devices talks you through what they mean and it gives you examples of those devices. In this video, guys, what I'm going to talk you through is how you actually go about creating these devices. Because one of the hardest things about learning is applying the learning. We can all know what a simile means. We can all know what oxymoron means. But if any given moment in any assessment, any exam, any scenario that you're in, if you can't create, if you can't use these devices, then the learning is pointless. And I understand, guys, I get it. I know so many of you know what oxymoron means, know what juxtaposition means, know what pathetic fallacy means, but you avoid it. And you avoid it because you don't feel confident enough to use it in a given exam or a given assessment. So you go to the other ones, you do onomatopoeia or other language devices. But the reason I've chosen these 5 is because within these 5, we've got your kind of common ones and then your higher level grade 8, grade 9 devices. For example, simile is your common one, and then your oxy juxtaposition. These are your slightly higher level ones. Now guys, by the end of this video, you will hopefully feel super confident in being able to use them. I will go over the definition, I will go over examples, but what I'm gonna focus on a lot is how to create this in your writing. So in your speech, in your letter, in your article, in your story, whatever form you are doing, you will hopefully be able to use these without much effort, because the method that I give you should hopefully be super easy for every single one of them. All right, guys, let's switch over to the board and let's begin with our good old friend, simile. Everything education. Tuition for maths, English, and science. I hate the definition that a lot of people use, and this is when they say it's when you compare two things using like or as, or it's when you describe. Guys, a simile doesn't describe, nor does it compare two things, because the word thing is far too ambiguous. When you think of a simile, I want you guys to think of it as the following. A simile is when you compare two nouns. Now, what is a noun, guys? A noun is the name of something. Table, chair, place, person. A simile is when you compare two nouns, and you have to use like and you have to use as. That's the first thing that I want you to understand. You have to have two nouns that you want to compare. You could compare the table to the door. You could compare me to the iPad. You can compare the camera to the projector. But you need to decide what two nouns am I going to compare. Then you have to ask yourself the question, what am I comparing about them? You have to select a feature of that particular item. For example, let's look at this room right now. Right above me, guys, is the projector. So if I said the projector, that's my first noun done. Now I've got to think about, what is it about the projector that I want to talk about? Too many people, guys, when they compare, they skip the feature part. But you have to think about, what is it about this particular object, this particular thing that you want to compare? I'm going to compare the brightness because that's a prominent feature. The projector was as bright as the sun. Done. Now, if we go through my particular simile, what have I got here, guys? This over here, on this side over here, this is my first noun, which is the projector. Then I need to think about, what feature of the projector am I comparing? I'm comparing the brightness. So that's the feature that I chose to compare. Then I had to think about, okay, what other noun fulfills this criteria? What else is really, really, really bright? And I chose the most obvious thing, guys, which is the sun. And that was my second noun. And there is my sentence, guys. The projector was as bright as the sun. Two nouns with the feature. And of course, I've got the word as in the sentence to compare. And that's it. That's all it takes. Let's try again, guys. Let's try again. Let's do another one. The pen. Now, guys, I have to think about what feature of the pen do I want to talk about. For me, guys, this pen is very, very powerful. The pen was as powerful. I do a lot with this, guys. Without this, my teaching would be very limited. So because of this pen, I can do a lot. Therefore, for me, this pen is powerful. Now, what looks like a pen is similar to a pen, but isn't a pen, but is really, really powerful? What's another noun that I can talk about? I've got my first noun. I've got my feature. The pen was as powerful as a wand. I'm going to compare it to a wand. And guys, same thing. If we were to go over this very quickly, here is my first noun. Over here, guys, I have my feature. And over here, guys, right at the end, I have my second noun. Always think of a simile like this, because I promise you guys, it will make life easy. Simile is not a hard language device. It's not supposed to be. It's a language device that you're taught from a very, very young age. But what happens is that we're given, in my opinion, really weak definitions, and we're just given examples. He ran like a cheetah. He was as strong as an ox. But we're not taught the thinking that goes behind it. All you need to think about is the following, guys. 2 nouns plus a feature. 2 nouns plus a feature. 2 nouns plus a feature. The pen, the wand, the projector, and the sun. I've got my 2 nouns. What's the feature? The feature normally goes in between, because that's the thing that's being compared. So the pen was as powerful as the wand. The projector was as bright as the sun. And of course, when you're doing the comparison, please make sure you're using as or like. But normally, guys, the as or like part isn't the difficult part. What people miss, honestly, is the nouns and the features. They miss the nouns and the features. That's why you find a lot of students, what do? They'll see something like, John likes chicken and chips. John likes to eat M&Ms. And just because they see the word like, or they see the word as, they have a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, that must be a simile. But no, you must ask yourself, what 2 nouns are being compared, and has as and like, or as or like being used? But guys, this is the easy peasy method for you guys to get the mark for a simile, because it works every single time. Now, the next one, guys, that we're going to move on to is slightly harder, but I will make it super easy for you guys. And this is oxymoron. Oxymoron, guys, can be an awkward device. It can be an awkward device. Now, oxymoron is when you have 2 opposite words side by side. And a lot of people just think that as long as you've got 2 opposite words, you're good. So black, white, fat, skinny, tall, short. But the problem with these examples of oxymoron is, number 1, they are terrible, rubbish oxymorons. And number 2, they do nothing for the quality of your writing. Guys, behind me, I'm going to go through the step-by-step formula that I want you guys to use when it comes to creating an oxymoron. The first thing I want you all to do is to pick an adjective. Always pick an adjective. So for example, I'm going to choose the adjective slow. Once you've chosen your adjective, the next thing that I want you to do is to think of the opposite. Guys, the next thing I want you to do is to think of the opposite. So for example, what is the opposite of slow? The opposite of slow is fast. So fast is the opposite of slow. Then what I would like you to do, guys, is to think of a noun. I want you all to think of a noun that is fast. I want you all to think of the name of something that is fast. So for example, I'll use the popular one. A cheetah is seen as a very, very fast animal. And then the last and final step, guys, that we are doing is we add the adjective plus the noun. So we add the adjective to the noun. And what do we get? We get the phrase slow cheetah. And there is our oxymoron. It works every single time. You think of an adjective, you think of the opposite, you think of a noun that matches the opposite, and you put the two words together. Let's try it again. Let's try the same method again. Let's think of the adjective. Let's think of the adjective, guys. Happy. What's the opposite of happy? Sad. What is the noun? What is the name of something that is supposed to be really, really sad? How about a funeral? And then you put the adjective and the noun together, and what do you get? You get an oxymoron, the happy funeral. And there you have it, guys. There's your oxymoron done. Let's try it again, because this method, it works every single time. Let's use the adjective nice. What's the opposite of nice? I don't know, evil. Something that isn't nice, evil. What is the name of something that is evil? The devil. And then all you do, guys, is you put the adjective plus the noun, and there you have the nice devil. Guys, this works every single time. All I want you to always ask yourself is the following: what is my first initial adjective? And always pick a basic adjective. Happy, sad, big, small, because we're not too bothered about the adjective. We're gonna turn this into an oxymoron. That's what we care about. So once you've got your adjective, think of the opposite. Once you've thought of the opposite, so the opposite of big is small. The opposite of, so for example, if we do one more together, guys, let's say I do the adjective big. What's the opposite of big? The opposite of big is small. What is the name of something that is really, really small? And I don't know, an ant. And then you simply put these words together, guys. The big ant. You put your adjective and your noun together, and you get your oxymoron. And that's it. Look how easy it is to create a high-level language device. So many students, you might be one of them, avoid oxymorons. They know what it means, but they haven't got the confidence to execute it in an exam. What you do, adjective, opposite noun, done. There you have your oxymoron. Adjective, opposite noun. Adjective, opposite noun. This helps because this helps you zoom in to the kind of noun you are looking for. And then when you put those words together, your oxymoron has been created. Now you're gonna say to me, sir, how are you gonna teach us how to create juxtaposition? Guys, thank me later, because juxtaposition doesn't need to be hard. What is juxtaposition? Juxtaposition is when you have two ideas that are opposite. For example, oxymoron is two words. Juxtaposition is two ideas. For example, a couple of years ago, all of us were going through COVID. So people were wearing masks. We were standing 2 meters apart. We were fighting over toilet roll. Looking back, that world juxtaposes the world we live in today. That world is the opposite. That world contrasts the world that we live in today. Now, that's fine. That's great. But how do you go about using juxtaposition in writing? How do you go about using juxtaposition in a given exam? Very, very simple, guys. Very, very straightforward. You're gonna kick yourself when you didn't realize this. The easy peasy way of doing this, guys, is the following. To create juxtaposition in your writing, there is one simple step. All I want you to do is to explain your oxymoron. and let it go on for at least 3 to 4 lines. That's it. Explain your oxymoron. So for example, let's do one together. The big ant stood in front of me. Is that juxtaposition? No. At the moment, all I've got is an oxymoron. That's all I've got so far. But I need my oxymoron. I need my oxymoron to create space now for the juxtaposition. So always start with the oxymoron. Say it. The big ant stood in front of me. Now let me explain how this ant was big. Let me change these two words into an idea. The big ant stood in front of me. Never had my eyes seen such a spectacle. Every step this ant took cracked the earth under its ginormous feet. But you get what I mean, guys. I'm running out of space, but guys, you get what I would go on and do next. All I'm doing is I'm explaining how this ant is big, how this ant is huge. And just by you doing that, you're now going from having an oxymoron to now having juxtaposition. Now, please make sure it's at least 3 to 4 lines long. The reason you want to make it 3 to 4 lines long is because you want to make it long enough for the examiner, for the teacher to pick it. Sometimes it might just go straight over their head. They might not even realize that you've used it. So you want to make sure that your juxtaposition or your oxymoron or whatever you've used is long enough, has enough legs, as I say. So very, very simple, guys. You start with this short sentence where you give the oxymoron. I walked into the happy funeral. The big ant stood in front of me. The nice devil was staring at me. Done. You give your oxymoron. And then you simply explain your oxymoron. You explain how the devil was nice. You explain how the funeral was happy. Music was playing, people were dancing, food was being served. It felt like you were in a party. The moment you explain the oxymoron, you've now turned it into an idea. And by nature, it will be an opposite idea because you're explaining two opposite words. You get the mark for oxymoron, you get the mark for juxtaposition, and you go home happy. Guys, look how easy it is to use these devices. So many students are scared, they avoid it. I see it all the time. They avoid these devices. Guys, these are easy when you've learned how to use them. Okay, simile done, oxymoron done, juxtaposition done. And now we move on to my favorite device. This is my favorite device, guys. I love pathetic fallacy. Shows you how much of a geek I am, guys. The fact that I have a favorite device, but it is what it is. Guys, pathetic fallacy. I'm pretty sure pathetic fallacy is in almost every book that we read. From Romeo and Juliet to Inspector Calls to Jekyll and Hyde to Christmas Carol to Macbeth. It's everywhere. What is pathetic fallacy? Pathetic fallacy, guys, is when the weather is used to reflect the mood. That's your basic definition. It's when the writers use the weather to reflect the mood, reflect what's happening in the play or the story or the book or whatever it is you're writing about. Now, typical examples are what? For example, guys, sunshine equals happiness. Thunder could equal anger. Rain could equal sadness. That's a typical way of how the weather is used. The fog can be used that something evil, mysterious is about to happen. But you get different weather conditions that match different moods. Now, this is just like a typical, right? So when the sun is shining, everyone's happy, people are having barbecues, people are getting married, life is good. When the rain is falling, sad, depressed, lonely. When there's thunder and you can hear the sky rumbling. Anger, something bad is about to happen. In Jekyll and Hyde, just before Jekyll kills Sir Danvers Carew, for those of you who've read it, the fog descends upon London. It's like a mystery, it's like a secret that's about to take place. But anyway, guys, these are typical examples, right, of what pathetic fallacy is. Now, how would we go about using pathetic fallacy in our writing, in your story, or in any piece of creative writing? Guys, very simple. Use the zooming out to zooming in method. What is that method? It's very simple, very straightforward method. Again, you want to make it last 3 to 4 lines, only because you want the examiner to pick it. Remember, guys, examiners, teachers are human beings. If your device is too short, they're going to skip it. They're going to read over it and they might not pick it out, which means you won't get the marks for it. So you want to make it last long enough that they pay attention, that their pen goes tick on the page because they've been able to identify it. Now, let's go over this. What is the zooming out and then zooming in method? Very simple, guys. When you're using pathetic fallacy, always start in the sky. Imagine this is the first paragraph of your writing. Always start in the sky. Now you might be thinking, sir, what the heck are you talking about? Start in the sky. Literally, at the top. Talk about the clouds. Talk about the sun. Talk about birds flying around up there. Whatever it is. But start all the way at the top. And the weather you choose. The sky must reflect what mood you're trying to pass. So for example, if you want your opening to be dark, then maybe have it dark and cloudy up there. Don't have the sun shining. But if you want to make it that your story has a lovely, vibrant, positive opening, then have the sun shining, the birds tweeting. But you get what I mean, right? Start at the top. You want to start straight at the top. Then, but remember, guys, this is important. In the sky, the weather you choose has to match with what comes next. That's very important. Then, guys, then, I want you all to pick one aspect of nature. So, you start at the sky. The sun is shining, for example. Talk about the sun shining and talk about how beautiful it is and blah, blah, blah. Couple of lines, 1 or 2 lines is more than enough. Then you imagine yourself coming down. Eventually, we're going to end up on Earth. Then you imagine yourself coming down and you pick one aspect of nature. This could be a tree. This could be a river. This could be an animal flying in the sky. This could be, I don't know, what other aspects of nature are there? I'm not much of an outdoor person. I don't know, a mountain. But you pick one object that's in the outdoors. So for example, if you're doing a lovely day, you might start off by talking about how the sun is shining, and then as you come down, you pick a beautiful tree or a beautiful flower, and then you write a couple of lines about that particular thing. And then we move one more step. And I want you all to end up on the character, but I want you all to talk about their feelings. So for example, guys, can you guys see that? Yes, you can. We're gonna go from the character, sorry, not the character. We're gonna go from the sky to the aspect of nature to the character. All 3 of them are gonna match the same energy. So if the sun was positive, beautiful, if the tree or the flower or whatever you've chosen is positive and beautiful, then your character, when you're describing their feelings, they're gonna be happy. Life is gonna be good. And by the time you finish doing that, the weather you began with ended up reflecting the mood of the text, and you've used pathetic fallacy. Let's reverse it. Imagine you want to create a really dark, a really negative mood. Start the first paragraph, the first couple of lines, 2 lines. The sky was rumbling. I don't know, how else is the sky? The clouds were forming together. You talk about the clouds and the rumbling of the sky. Perfect. Then you come down and you talk about a flower, but the flowers are dead. they're falling sideways, they've got no life in them. And then you move on to your character, and your character is sitting at home with their head in their hands, tears going down their face. The weather at the beginning, the flower in the middle, and the guy at the end, they all have the same negative energy. And because you began with the weather and you ended with the mood, you get the mark for pathetic fallacy. Now, when I say all of this, guys, I'm talking altogether about 4 lines. 1 or 2, 1 or 2, 1 or 2. That's about, altogether is 3, well, it's about 4 to 5, 6 lines. And that's it. You get the mark for pathetic fallacy and you move on. All right. Guys, I actually think these are actually very good methods. I think every English teacher should adopt this and use this in their lessons. Don't just teach definitions. Teach the method. Teach the important part of how you actually use it in exams. All right, guys, the last one. The last one, guys, is our old friend personification. Our old friend personification. What is personification? Personification, guys, is when you give a non-human a human feature. That is what personification is. That is what personification is looking at. Now, I've heard loads of people give loads of different definitions. It's when you give an inanimate object a human feature. It's when you give an object a human feature. And some of these definitions just make life unnecessarily difficult. Personification, guys. You're a human, I'm a human. It's when we give our features to anything other than us. So if I said that this pen is sitting on my hand, we sit, pens don't sit. So that's personification. Now, guys, to create personification, guys, is very, very simple. The first thing you do, guys, is you pick your object. You pick your object. What do you want to talk about? Are we going to talk about the table, the door, the phone, the camera, the projector? What is it we want to speak about? I'm gonna choose the door because it's literally right there. So literally, guys, all we say is the door. Now, normally I would say noun, but I want you guys to understand this in a little bit of a different way. We pick our non-human. The door is my non-human. Like, no one should be scratching their head. That makes sense, right? You pick your thing that isn't human. I pick a door in this instance. So, the door. Now I gotta think about this. I know that I'm gonna give the door a feature of me. So don't give it random features. The door, like asking some kids say stuff like, the door smelled nice. Doors don't really smell, my friend. So you're kind of going off the cliff and you're falling head first. Keep it controlled. The feature you give, look at the thing you're talking about, and it's got to have some kind of match. Doesn't have to be like a complete match, but there has to be some similarity. For example, I can't say that the door was standing there punching and kicking because it's literally doing nothing. It's standing still. That's a feature I can give. That's a feature I can give because I'm looking at my object and I'm thinking, okay, as a human, what feature matches that particular object? This is very important, guys, because too many students just give random features. And you may get the mark for personification because technically you have used personification. But is it a high level? Not really. You've kind of just done it as a very low level use just to get a basic tick. But there's no sophistication in your use. So look at your object, guys, and think about what matches. So I said standing still. So the door was standing still. I don't know, in the corner of the room. In the corner of the room. Okay, standing here now, guys. This is the feature. Let me rephrase that, guys. This is the human feature that I am giving this door. And that's it, guys. Personification, like simile, isn't hard. The ones in the middle, your oxymoron, juxtaposition, and pathetic fallacy, the way they've been sold is these are really, really hard language devices and only the clever kids can use them. That's not true, guys. That's not true. Everyone can use all of these devices because the way they are used is easy. I've just shown you guys how to do it. So guys, look, personification. Think of your object. So think of your non-human. Think of the human feature you want to give it. Make some kind of match and you're done. The door was standing still in the corner of the room. This pen is my best friend because I can't live without it. The pen is my non-human. I've given it the feature of being a best friend. That's my human feature, and I'm done. If I said this remote was jumping in my hands, I don't know, flipping it around, bouncing up and down, but you pick your non-human and you give it the human feature. Guys, look, my final piece of advice. I've given you guys 5. Use these 5 in your writing. They're really good devices to use. You've got grade 4 to grade 9 devices and practice. So do the method that I said. So if you're practicing oxymoron, do the method. Think of an adjective, then think of the opposite adjective, then think of a noun, then add the adjective with the noun, and that gives you your oxymoron. Tick. Once you become good at doing that, then start to explain your oxymoron. Turn your oxymoron into juxtaposition, but the practice is super important. Alright guys, I hope this video helped on how you actually create these language devices. As always guys, it's been Mr. Everything English. Peace.